In today's video, I'm going to show you why only morons start a brick and mortar business. If you were thinking about starting a business with a physical location, like an office or a storefront, this could be the most important video that you ever watch. Alright, so in today's video, we're going to be talking about why I feel starting a brick and mortar business, that means a business with a physical office or a storefront, is an obsolete concept and why it's a terrible, terrible idea. In the past, this was the only way to start a business, but now that there's the option to start an internet-based businesses are always a better idea for everybody, in my opinion. And I'm going to show you why that is. Okay, so there are 8 reasons why starting a brick and mortar business is a terrible, terrible idea, and why starting an internet-based business is better. I'll run you through them all in today's video. But first, let's talk about why it's necessary to say that brick and mortar businesses are for morons, and why I don't just say it's a bad idea. I'm using strong language like this because a similar video from Mark Cuban actually changed my life 7 years ago. And if he hadn't used strong language like this, I never would have made this big change in my life, and I probably never would have become a successful entrepreneur. So let's watch a clip from that video and you can see what I mean.
I mean, the thing about being an entrepreneur is it's just all to you. You know, a lot of people like to make excuses. I don't have connections, I don't have money, I don't have this. But, you know, if you find something that you like to do or love to do, be great at it and see if you can turn it into a business. In worst case, you're going to have fun doing what it is you love to do. In best case, you can turn it into a business. I'm just not big on excuses. I just think if you really, everybody has that opportunity to go for it. They just got to do it.
Well, you know, a lot of people say it's hard to get a loan right now if you're a small business owner or you're trying to come up with an idea. How do you get the capital to start that business?
Well, first of all, if you're starting a business and you take out a loan, you're a moron.
You're a moron, right? That's right.
There's so many uncertainties involved with starting a business, yet the one certainty that you'll have to have is paying back your loan.
Now, if you haven't watched this video, go ahead and watch that full video right now. It's a truly life-changing video. Explains why the concept of getting a loan to start a business has become obsolete. Changed my life. I probably would have gotten a loan and gone bankrupt if I hadn't watched this video, but you got to watch that video right now if you haven't watched it. Now, I'm going to show you why, in the same way that taking out a loan became obsolete to start a business about 10 years ago, physical companies have become altogether obsolete in the year 2021. And let's run through the reasons why that is. Reason number 1, there is an extreme risk of bankruptcy, losing everything you own because of the high fixed costs associated with brick and mortar businesses. So, to explain what I mean by that, I first have to explain what a fixed cost is and what a variable cost is. Fixed costs are costs that stay the same in your business regardless of how much product you sell. So, for example, the rent on your physical store or your property taxes or your payroll, if you have a down month or if you have a great month, it always stays the same. That's a fixed cost. Variable costs, on the other hand, are costs that increase or decrease depending on how much you sell. So, for example, the cost of your product, let's say if you sell a lot of product, you got to buy a lot of inventory. The cost of contractors hired for a single job. Let's say if you're getting hired to perform some service and you hire contractors to do that job for you, that would be a variable cost. So fixed cost stays the same regardless of how business is. Variable costs go up and down depending on how your business is. Now, the point I want you to get out of this slide is that fixed costs are absolute poison. They're the worst thing ever. And you have to minimize them to build a business that's profitable and low stress. And let's talk about why that is. So if you do have a downturn in your business and you take on a lot of fixed costs, then you're going to have big losses. Now, ask me how I know, because my last business was a company like this. And of course, we did very well overall. But even if you're making $1 million or $2 million or $3 million a year, if you lose $100,000 or $200,000 or $300,000 in a single month, it's very stressful. It sucks. And even if you're doing well overall, it causes a lot of unnecessary stress. On the other hand, my business right now is an internet-based business, which has virtually no fixed costs. Because of that, it's impossible for me to lose money in this business. I guess I could if I really tried, but unless I'm really falling asleep at the wheel, I'm not going to lose money at this business. If I have a down month, the worst that can happen to me is I make less profit. If I were to have a really disastrous month in terms of revenue, I would just lay off some contractors, or I would reduce other variable costs, or there's many things that I could do to ensure that I never make a loss, no matter how much business declines. And on the other hand, if business is good, then I'll make even more money than a physical business. Now, if you have a business with high fixed costs, let's say you have to buy a physical location or sign a long-term lease, or hire a whole bunch of people, and you don't have a ton of money to start this business, that means you're either going to have to take out a loan, we've established that is for morons only, or sell a large equity stake in your company to start it if you don't have a ton of money right now. Now, in the past, that was the only way to do things. Before the internet really matured, that was the only way to start a business. You just had to take on some kind of financing in order to get it started. But now you don't need to do that any longer. You can start a business with less than $10,000 without giving away any of the equity in your company if you start an internet-based business. So bottom line, with a physical business, you have more stress and you make less money. All right. Reason number 2 is with a brick and mortar business, you have a massive tax burden. With an internet-based business, you can massively reduce your taxes. That means you do the same amount of work, you make the same amount of profit, but you take home more after-tax profit at the end of the day. So let me explain why brick and mortar businesses have to pay so much more in taxes. First of all, if you have a business with a physical location like an office or a storefront, you have to pay property tax. This is usually going to be about 5 to 10% of profits for the average business if it's an average year. Now, if you have a blowout awesome year, it's going to be a little bit less because it's fixed. But if you have a terrible year, this could be 100% of your profits or more. Even if you make a loss in a certain year, you still owe property taxes. Ask me how I know. It's a mistake. You don't have to pay those type of astronomical property taxes. You can avoid that and still make just as much money or more. Secondly, with a brick and mortar business, you have to pay payroll tax, even if you're not making any profits. Now, this will be about 15% of your total payroll. How much this will affect you will depend on how big your payroll is relative to the size of your business, but this is usually a 10 to 30% reduction in business profits. Now, this is because most brick and mortar businesses have to pay people on a W-2. On the other hand, most online businesses can pay people on what's called a 1099. I'm going to put a link to the video where I talk about this more in depth, but basically 1099 is always better for hiring people and saves you a ton of money. You can't legally do that, though, with a lot of brick and mortar business, so you get hit with this 15% tax. You don't need to pay that tax, so you can start an internet business. Third, with a brick and mortar business, you have to pay a ton of state sales taxes. Usually, you have to pay state sales taxes on 100% of your sales. On the other hand, with an online business, you do still have to pay some state sales taxes. But for the most part, you can avoid most of these taxes, almost all of these taxes, if you're a small business. So bottom line, overall, if you start a brick and mortar business, you're going to lose an extra 25 to 50% of your profits to unnecessary taxes. And that's a lot. That's making half as much money for the same amount of work if everything goes well. And keep in mind that taxes are going up every year. So this is as good as it's going to get right now. Every year, those taxes will go up, and every year, the tax burden of a brick and mortar business will become worse. All right, reason number 3 is that future lockdowns will ruin you if you start a brick and mortar business. So now that the precedent has been established for lockdowns, they're very likely to happen again in the future. Now, a lot of people are thinking that pandemics as severe as COVID-19 are very rare. They only happen about once every 100 years, and that is true. However, many states maintain their lockdowns even when they got to very low death levels. And pandemics that cause death levels, which we're seeing in 2021, I'm filming this in May of 2021, pandemics that create death levels around what we're seeing right now are actually very common. And many states are still maintaining their lockdowns, even with the reduced death levels we're seeing today in May of 2021. Some examples of what I mean by this: in 2008, the H1N1 pandemic killed about 500,000 people globally. It wasn't anywhere near as severe as COVID-19, but now that this lockdown has been established, if something like H1N1 happened again and 100,000 people in the US were going to die, probably there would be another lockdown. This was historically unprecedented, had never happened before, but now that the precedent has been established, it's very likely there will be many future lockdowns for minor pandemics. So millions of business owners were destroyed by the last round of lockdowns, but internet business owners actually made more money. Yet another reason why starting a brick and mortar business is a terrible idea. All right, 4th reason is you have massive disadvantage in hiring. When I hire people for my business, I can hire the best people in the world. When a brick and mortar business owner hires people for their business, they're stuck hiring the best people and they're local 10-mile or 20-mile radius, whoever can actually drive to that business every single day. Now, obviously, they're going to do their best to hire the best people in their local neighborhood, but the best people in the world are always going to be better than the best people in your neighborhood. It's like the best athlete in the world, the best basketball player in the world is always going to be better than the best basketball player in your town. And here's the best thing about this. When you start a brick and mortar business, you don't have to pay more for this premium talent. In fact, you can usually hire better talent, pay them less, and they'll be happier working for your business than if you had a physical location. That's because they don't have to commute, their tax burden is not as high, their lifestyle is better. So that's the reason why they're going to want to work for a company like yours. Now, this wasn't possible in the past, but technology has made depending on the talent in your local area an obsolete idea. You can get the best people in the world right now, and there's no reason why you shouldn't start a business where you can go after those kind of people. All right, reason number 5 is that you're on the wrong side of technology. Every year, internet businesses get more profitable and easier to run due to technology. Brick and mortar businesses do not benefit from technology in anywhere near the same way. I mean, maybe you get a little more high-tech cash register, maybe you get like a little better inventory software system, but you're not making those exponential gains like my business is and like all internet businesses are every single year. Even worse, most brick and mortar businesses, I think, will eventually be destroyed by online competition. If you're doing something that can be done by an online business, the online business will probably do it cheaper and better, leading to you eventually going bankrupt. If you start an internet business on the right hand, technology will be on your side. If you do the same thing every single year, your business will naturally get easier to run and more profitable due to improving technology. All right, reason number 6 is that you're going to make lower profits even if you're successful with a brick and mortar business. And the reason for that is that brick and mortar businesses are much harder to scale than online businesses. For example, in my last company, we started an online business. We struggled for a little while to get something to work, but then we got a small-scale profitable ad campaign spending about $100 a day. We were easily able to turn that up to $1,000 a day, basically just by pressing a button. We already had the fulfillment system set up, and we could handle 10x more orders without really putting in any more effort ourselves as business owners. Now, on the other hand, if you have a brick and mortar business, it's not nearly that easy. Let's say you get a successful ad campaign. You can't just hit that button and get 10x more sales. To handle 10x more sales, you need 10 times more locations. Now, obviously, this can be done. You could build 10 more locations and somehow figure out a way to manage all 11 of your locations. But it's very hard and it's not necessary. So not only is the downside greater, the upside is lower with a brick and mortar business. So it's just a bad idea overall. Reason number 7 is that if you sell your business, you're going to get a very low, shitty valuation if you have a brick and mortar physical business. And that's because smart investors don't value brick and mortar businesses very highly for all the reasons we previously discussed. So if you do sell your business, let's say you make a lot of profits somehow and you sell your business, then investors are going to pay you a much lower multiple of your profits to buy your business than if you had an online business. Increasingly, many investors, including myself, would not buy a brick and mortar business at any price. And I think more and more people are going to start to think like me in the future. So if your goal is to achieve financial freedom by one day selling your business, then make sure you start an internet-based business. And reason number 8, the most important reason, is that a physical business gives you a terrible lifestyle. It's going to fill your life with stress and make you unhappy compared to an internet-based business. Now, in the past, this was just the only way to become a business owner, but you don't have to deal with that kind of stress anymore. With a physical location, you're going to have a monotonous daily routine. You're going to have all these problems with employees. You're going to have financial stress when you occasionally have a large loss month, even if your business is doing good overall. You're going to have a long, stressful commute every day. It's just a horrible, horrible lifestyle compared to an internet-based company. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're an entrepreneur and you're running a business, a physical business, making $1 million or $2 million a year, I've been in that position, and it's better than, let's say, being a janitor and, doing that same stress for no money. But that's not the only alternative. You have the alternative to make that kind of money with far less stress, far less monotonous routine, and a much, much better lifestyle. And as someone who's done both, I guarantee you, you're going to be much, much happier starting an internet-based business. Obviously, the money is better, but even if the money is worse, you'd be much, much happier just because you don't have to commute, you don't have the stress of dealing with employees, you don't have as much financial stress, and it's just a much better lifestyle running an internet-based business. So those are the 8 reasons why starting a brick and mortar business is only for morons and why you should never, ever do it. Starting a brick and mortar business is obsolete, and internet-based businesses are the future. If you want to start an internet-based business, but you don't have any idea where to start, then click the link below and watch the next video in this series. In that series, I talk more about my full YouTube advertising method. Now, I feel that YouTube advertising is the #1 skill that you need to learn if you want to start an online business. The reason for that is YouTube is the advertising platform which presents the biggest opportunity for you to make profits right now, especially as a new business owner. So you could make money by running YouTube ads for other business owners, or you could use YouTube ads to sell nearly any product. So if you want to start an internet-based business, this is the best place to start. In the next video, I will show you the biggest mistakes that people make with YouTube ads. I will give you my 3 best techniques for making more money with YouTube ads. And at the end of that video, I'm going to reveal my best ninja trick for making more money with YouTube ads. I've used this method to make a ton of money with YouTube ads. My students have as well. And I know that this video is going to work for you too. So click the link below, watch the next video, and learn how you can profitably run YouTube ads and start an internet-based business. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll talk to you next time.